Dr. Ramokgopa, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. So about 2 weeks ago, you've already had a so-called pitching session ahead of this major infrastructure project symposium. What exactly was that all about, and who was there ahead of the symposium coming up later this month?
Thanks, Dewan, and thanks for the invitation. Essentially, it's a culmination of about 5 months of intensive project preparation and packaging, working together with the multilateral development banks, the DFIs, and the commercial banks to help us with some capacity in relation to project preparation, especially around the areas of technical and financial engineering. And we have identified the network industries, namely water, energy, ICT, infrastructure and transportation. And then the President requested that we also add agriculture because of its employment absorption capacity and also human settlements. And essentially the kind of projects that we're looking for are those that have got a cost recovery stream. Essentially they can be packaged for private sector participation. Some of them will require a bit of blended financing. And this comes about because we have seen that the country has been experiencing adverse economic headwinds. We have been downgraded to sub-investment grade, and essentially COVID has appended all the assumptions that existed before. So we've been working on this project pipeline. It's a credible project pipeline that is robust, and we have been able to package these projects. And we thought that even before the symposium itself that is taking place, as we have mentioned on the 23rd of June, we need to test market appetite. So we created a project book. Essentially, it's a project prospectus that surfaces some of the key ratios for each and every project, presented them to an audience of over 60 financing institutions from across the globe. So it was not only the domestic players, and we had over 200 participants there. We have received tremendous feedback. There's already concrete commitments to some of the projects, and others they've requested some degree of clarity with regards to the regulatory issues, and we're working on that. So we are more than confident, buoyant, that by the time we reach the 23rd, we would have resolved a lot of those, and the President is able to announce a credible, robust, and if you like, aggressive build program by the state, and hopefully will stimulate the demand side, and with that we can resuscitate the supply. On the back of that, industrialize and absorb the supply side of the skills and address the issue of unemployment.
If I can come in there, Doctor, a report by the National Planning Commission earlier this year conceded that there is a critical shortage of professionals with built environment skills across the government. Now, is that not a problem when it comes to planning, contracting and procuring infrastructure? Because you could have some frustrations within the private sector space.
Oh, you're absolutely correct, Devon. So we are the first one to make that concessions. We admit that there are acute deficits, and some of them, if not managed properly, could be fatal. And that's why, as part of this exercise, we have also mapped a risk matrix. I must just share with you and the viewers that we've been doing a virtual tour of the key stakeholders who will be central in the delivery of this build program. We have already engaged the build sector. This morning we're engaging with big business, and there's a commitment to helping us to ensure that we deliver, execute this in the most efficient, ruthlessly efficient manner as possible. And again, like I said earlier on, we admit the acute shortage of skills, and that's why the need to collaborate with the private sector is central. I think there's a symbiotic relationship. Private sector thrives on the existence of a project pipeline, because on the back of that they are able to fund, and that project pipeline generally originate from the public sector, and it is for that reason that they've landed their skills there. And then the public sector will also benefit, because once we roll out, invest in the right sectors, like I said, we are able to stimulate the economy, address issues of growth, ensure that there's inclusivity. The issues of broadening the industrial base of the country will also be attended to. So if you like...
If you don't mind, Doctor, because of time, just to interject, I mean, you have a comparison here between South Africa and, let's say, the developed economies like the UK. The Financial Mail, for example, pointing out that, private sector participation in financing public infrastructure in South Africa sits at about 2%. You compare that to the UK, 50%. Is there not a reluctance, some may say, because of the lost confidence in government's ability to deliver on large projects? What's your take on that?
Well, we accept that to have been an objective limitation on the part of the state. And that's why, and we also accept that going forward, you are going to have major problems with regards to the fiscal headspace. It has been obliterated by COVID. So if there's any silver lining in this pandemic, and I'm not downplaying the gravity of the pandemic, is to allow public sector to design projects in a manner that we're able to attract private sector participation. And essentially it's addressing the regulatory issues, the issues around bottlenecks with regards to regulation and inordinate amount of time, for an example, in approving the PPPs, the various financing instruments, build, operate and transfer. So it's a parallel process that we are attending to in relation to the legislative reforms to allow for private sector participation. And the last one is around the operationalization of the infrastructure fund, which is essentially the 100 billion rand fund committed over a period of 10 years to de-risk the project. So essentially the public sector says, I'm prepared to take the first loss, I've de-risked the project, you are crowding in private sector participation. And I think there's been a lot of enthusiasm. And I'm confident that as part of this package of measures that the President will be announcing, you are going to find that the infrastructure fund is going to be central in the delivery of this build program.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there because of time, but indeed we'll be following that symposium later this month. Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, thanks very much indeed.